This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLesio and Kenny Bergamy.
Every week since 1966, that's a long time. Approaching 6 decades, and as we've been saying since day one, so glad you could join us for another edition of the Farm Monitor.
And keeping with tradition, we have got a great lineup for you. Coming up, remember those red-hot scorching days we had back in May and June? Dryland corn growers certainly do. You'll hear from one producer on the effects it had on his corn and what he's expecting once the harvest season is over. From disaster relief to water conservation, policymakers meet face-to-face with farmers at the annual Ag Issues Summit. Damon Jones on how producers in South Georgia will be protected from drought conditions. Plus,
well, everybody, Ranger Nick, coming up a little bit later. You know, we talk a lot about water and soil quality in agriculture, and this month I'm hanging out with a scientist who's studying an animal known as a snot otter that actually tells us a lot about water quality and soil quality. You're not going to want to miss this. That and a whole lot more starts right now on the Farm Monitor.
Well, last year, Dryland corn farmers saw almost perfect conditions with rain falling at all the right times and yielding a pretty decent crop when it was all said and done. But this year, they're facing a tougher climate. Jennifer Parson, one of the newest contributors to the Farm Monitor, spoke with one farmer in Morgan County who says he's optimistic despite the hot and dry weather.
Lee Nunn, a farmer in Morgan County, says the end of May and June brought dry and hot weather. His crops only saw about a ½ inch of rain in just 4 weeks.
Cotton likes heat, it thrives on heat actually.
While the heat hasn't quite affected the cotton crop this year, Lee Nunn says the corn, well, that's a different story.
See the small kernels we have here didn't fill out in the top because of the heat and the lack of moisture.
He grows all dryland corn with no irrigation, so his crop needs a lot of water and sunshine to yield a good harvest.
At one time I was thinking we may not have any. It may take our corn completely out.
They weren't just dealing with dry conditions. The harsh sunlight caused the corn to shrink up during the day.
The leaves will pull itself in, and that led to letting more sunlight down into the crop. And as you can see, we've got some grass and some weeds and things that have come up because the sunshine was able to get down to the ground.
One of the things that makes corn unique is that it really doesn't respond too well to temperatures above about 86 degrees. So when you have days when it's hot every day, it really shuts the corn down.
Pam Knox, an agricultural climatologist and director of the University of Georgia's Weather Network, says different atmospheric factors affect those conditions for farmers.
The atmosphere is just kind of like a bowl of jelly. It wiggles all over the place.
She says those higher temperatures aren't all bad and can increase the length of the growing season, giving farmers some extra options like doing a double crop. While Nunn agrees the weather patterns do fluctuate, he's noticed this year seemed especially warmer than usual.
Some years during June, you know, we're in the low 90s, high 80s. This year, obviously, we were in the mid to high 90s almost every day. It did not help us any on our corn at all. Our yield's going to be cut in half.
A stark difference from last year, which Nunn credits as his best year he's ever had with his dryland corn crop. We're in the middle of hurricane season, and weather experts have predicted higher than average tropical systems this year, though you wouldn't know it by the look of these ears.
There's a lot of dry conditions in Africa, a lot of dust blowing off, and that's really shut things down in the Atlantic. But that's starting to change, and we're starting to see more activity.
She says ocean temperatures are warm, and there's a chance we could see more storms pop up in a short amount of time. It's uncertain, but if we do see tropical systems move into our area in October, farmers could have some trouble getting their equipment into the fields to harvest. Unlike the corn crop down the way, these plants are relishing the hot weather.
The heat actually did not affect the cotton nearly as much as it did the corn. This is the bowls here.
With a good amount of rainfall in July and August, Nunn is hopeful this weather pattern will continue.
If we can get a little more moisture and then some dry days in September, I think we'll have one of the better crops we've had in a few years.
He's optimistic that the yield will be better than expected. But one thing is for sure, in true farmer fashion, he'll persevere.
It's been a hot, tough year so far, but we'll make it. We'll struggle on.
A blossom of hope at the end of a hot, dry summer. In Morgan County, I'm Jennifer Parson reporting for the Farm Monitor.
Pam Knox says the Gulf is warm, and if anything tropical were to develop, it could intensify quickly. She's advising farmers to keep a close eye on the weather and plan accordingly this fall.
Well, staying on the subject of corn, after what amounted to a long growing season, producers are finally in their fields harvesting this year's crop. As John Holcomb reports, not only has it been a year of headaches and concern regarding Mother Nature, but other factors as well.
It's a time of year corn producers are no doubt excited to see. Harvest time. That's certainly the case for Matt Oliver, a producer in Macon County, who says this year's growing season has been nothing short of a difficult one as the weather went from one extreme to the next, which meant having to keep a close eye on the crop.
This year our corn acreage is down a little bit. We're at around 600 acres. This growing season, one thing about it, there's been no moderation whatsoever in this growing season. It's either been it's been very hot and cold. It's either been way too wet or way too dry, and we've had some big extremes. There were times we had to irrigate a whole lot, and there were times that we literally had water running out of the field from rainfall. So it just meant really keeping a close eye on things. We use moisture sensors for our irrigation needs to determine when we need to irrigate or when we don't. So that helped a lot this year too.
And unfortunately, according to Oliver, harvest season certainly hasn't really been a walk in the park either, as just like with the growing season, the weather has been volatile.
I was really concerned early on. The moisture was extremely high. The moisture on the corn would not come down. And this week's been a total game changer. Just like I said earlier, in South Georgia, we have these extremes. It's either way too hot or way too cool or way too wet or way too dry. That's definitely the way it's been. The harvest has been an extreme.
Despite the challenges, though, Oliver says that overall, the crop has turned out to be a decent one, as they didn't have a lot of disease and pest pressure. However, he says it could have been a better one if they wouldn't have had to lower their fertilizer usage due to the cost of fertilizer more than doubling since last season.
We really didn't have a whole lot of disease issue. I know that there's some local growers that are having some issues with aflatoxins, so they're having a hard time delivering. But we just kind of counting our blessings. We've done well. The yield is good. The yield may have been higher last year, but we did roll back our input some from a fertilizer standpoint, just because of the increase in fertilizer and fuel and that sort of thing. Fertilizer's gone up. I'd have to do the math, but I'd say 175% over a year and a half ago.
Fortunately, Oliver says that for now, the market for corn is decent, and he believes they will at least meet their bottom line this season. However, he says that it's hard to look forward to the future with so much uncertainty on the horizon.
Markets are good. Do I wish they could be better? Absolutely, I wish they could be better. I think they need to be a little bit better in order to help us have some margin over and above our inputs. The market volatility has been crazy. There's been some major highs and lows, and we just never know where it's going. I think we'll be okay this year, and from a margin standpoint, we're going to come out okay. But optimism level for the future, I got to put it like this: if you're a farmer, you're most likely an optimist anyway. You better be. You probably need to find something else to do.
Reporting in Ideal for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
Well, what do you think are the main issues affecting Georgia farmers? All of the above, right? After the break, we'll take you to the annual Ag Issues Summit in Perry and hear how key state lawmakers are working to solve the many problems.
My name is Nat Bodiford. I'm from Scriven County, Georgia. I farm here with my father. On this farm, we farm about 2,200 acres. We're farming corn, cotton, and peanut. This year has been certainly extremely hard, over the past. When you take it in over the last few years, this year has really put the nail in the coffin on tough years. We had some of the highest inputs we've ever had, and that goes from fuel to fertilizer, chemicals, anything you can imagine. Everything is just out the roof, and it's been very difficult, but you try to book crops where you can make money and try to minimize your losses. And ever since I can remember, all I've ever loved is farming. Since I was a little child, I grew up with my own garden. That's what I did. I come home from pre-K kindergarten. That's all I did was play in that garden. I tilled it with my toy tractors. I managed it. And then as soon as I was able to drive a tractor, that's all I ever wanted to do was come home and be on the farm. You know, being raised here with my father, and also got some influence from uncles. I grew up on a family farm in Bullock County as well. And both of them kind of helped instill the farming legacy into me, so I can kind of continue it on in my generation. One of the biggest things that I've learned to help me in my farming career thus far is having hard work and dedication, you know. Giving your whole heart, doing it all you can do, and also relying on the Lord to help you make it through the crop. You know, with the Lord behind you and with the dedication you have to a crop, you'll always come out on top. Might not be what you wanted, but you'll always come back to make it another year. It's always been a challenge trying to stay right in the public eye. And it's so difficult to actually grow a crop and do a good job when you have folks that are misinformed trying to tell you how to grow your own crop. You know, I wish that so many folks would actually come out here, put your boots on the ground, come out here, walk out in my peanut field with me, come, let's talk, let's help you to understand exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it. That way, you know, public perception is better on why we're doing things the way we do. I always kind of questioned why I really wanted to farm. And really, I kind of got back to looking at it, and it's really kind of seeing the true value of what your hard work does. You take a bare field and just a few seeds in the beginning of the year, and you start out and you plant those seeds, and with a lot of hard work and faith, you watch that crop grow, you nurture it, you care for it, and you make it grow to a fruitful crop. And it is very rewarding to watch and look and see your crop and all your hard work, you know. And it's not just my hard work. There's a whole crew of folks that help us, and it's a team effort, you know, and it's so rewarding to be able to look at where you started and where you ended up.
Recently, leaders from both the ag industry and top universities, along with members of the Georgia legislation, gathered under one roof to discuss problems affecting the state's #1 industry.
Damon Jones was at the annual Ag Issues Summit and tells us why it's vital to the future of the ag industry.
It was a veritable who's who at the Perry National Fairgrounds as some of the most influential people in Georgia assembled to discuss the major concerns facing agriculture. Hosted by the Senate and House Ag Committee chairs, the Ag Issues Summit gave those in attendance a chance to hear from a variety of speakers.
Georgia's ag industry is so diversified, and it's just a real pleasure to get everybody together in one room and one accord today and see about these ag policy issues.
Agriculture is the #1 industry in Georgia, and like other industries in Georgia, have faced a lot of challenges through this pandemic and other things. So we thought it was important to continue this tradition of getting together annually and talking about issues of interest to not only the farmer but agribusiness and the communities surrounding that.
And this event couldn't have come at a better time as farmers are dealing with an unprecedented number of difficulties on a daily basis.
We want to keep Georgia agriculture growing and thriving. And in this challenging economy we got right now, we have a lot of rising prices, inflation, diesel fuel, crop protection chemicals, all those type things farmers are dealing with in addition to the weather. So just want to encourage and make sure we're all on the right path.
One of the big issues discussed each and every year is water usage. And thanks to a new program set to launch this year, farmers in South Georgia will be protected against drought conditions.
We're just launching the surface water to groundwater source conversion project down in the lower Flint River Basin. This particular project is going to allow us to go to our surface water irrigators in the lower Flint and offer them the opportunity to install a deep aquifer, groundwater source that they could use during drought. That does two things. You know, it gives the farmer more reliable access when things get really, really dry. But by removing those direct surface water withdrawals from the stream, it keeps water in the stream when we need it most during drought.
Thanks to a record turnout of more than 300 people, the event had to be moved into the biggest room in order to accommodate the demand. It's that type of interest that shows the future of agriculture is a priority for everyone involved.
Agriculture despite the challenges we face, still has a very bright future. And I'm glad to see a lot of young farmers here today that can take this information that they learned today back to their communities and talk with students and young farmers for the next generation of producers out there.
Reporting from Houston County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
Well, hey everybody, Ranger Nick. Coming up, we're going to talk about why this is a bad idea for water quality and why it's also a bad idea for the devil dog. I'll explain what that is after the break.
Cornell faculty, research staff, and students conduct a variety of research in our many indoor and outdoor research facilities. Our facilities are in two main locations on the University of Georgia campus. Within our four-building complex on UGA's South Campus, and at Whitehall Forest, an 840-acre site located 5 miles from the UGA campus containing forests, fish ponds, greenhouses, and additional lab space. The work conducted in our facilities covers a range of aquatic and terrestrial subjects. You can find entomology and herpetology labs, genetic labs, fish and aquatic toxicology labs, and tree in vitro propagation labs. We also have greenhouses for a variety of applications, forests for demonstration plantings, a fenced tree nursery, and spaces for outdoor projects in a variety of settings. Other buildings provide space for soils research, fish and other aquatic species, and wood testing. And thanks to the vast network of partner organizations, collaborative projects established by our faculty, and interdisciplinary work across the UGA campus, our faculty are able to expand the scope of their work to take advantage of additional resources available to Cornell faculty and students.
Well, they're called a bunch of different things. Devil dog, snot otter. The most common name is a hellbender, and I'm not talking about this guy. This is Thomas Floyd. Hey, Thomas, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Thomas Floyd's wildlife biologist, Georgia DNR, joined us for a Ranger Nick a couple of years ago on bog turtles. So good to have you back on. I want to talk about this hellbender, what they say the largest salamander in North America. You say the third largest in the world. Very impressive stats on this animal, but this is an agricultural show. Talk to me about the link between a salamander and agriculture. What would you say?
Well, the hellbender breathes through its skin. So it is a monitor of water quality. It is the canary in the coal mine for this type of habitat. Where you have hellbenders, you typically have good water quality.
Now, because they breathe through their skin, they're kind of what we call an indicator species. Right. They tell us how healthy they are. And what are you studying about this animal with regards to them in this kind of a creek?
Well, how many there are in a particular area, what habitats are available, what habitats they're using. And a big question is why they may not be doing so well in some streams and doing well in others. And it has a lot to do ultimately with habitat quality.
The power of nature. I mean, this is what's so incredible. So what I want to do now is I want to visit with a biologist and talk about where these guys live, where to find them, and what we need to know about them. So let's go there next. All right, so Thomas is back there looking around for hellbenders. We're going to try to get one on camera, but I'm joined now by Keith Ray. And Keith Ray is Director of Conservation for Southeastern Trust for Parks and Land. Keith, you study these things, hellbenders, and I've heard that they're called snot otters. Very flattering name. Why would they call them that?
So one of the hellbenders' natural defenses is to release a lot of mucus. And when they are scared, if they're trapped in a predator situation, to get away, they're going to secrete this white mucus. And it's almost like Elmer's glue.
Okay.
And if you get it on your hands start to get sticky. But inside of that, they release a little bit different chemical, and it allows them to slip out. And so that's their escape mechanism. They're going to gum up the predator's mouth and then slide right out.
And that's the beauty of wildlife, what it's doing. So we're out here looking around for hellbenders. What are you looking for in terms of their habitat? Where are you looking?
So when we look for hellbenders, they're here in the mountain streams where hellbenders are found. There's a lot of different types of rocks. And so you're going to see these quartzy based rocks that have a red coloration to them. That's no good. The hellbenders really don't like to live under those because they're round, water goes around them really easily, and underneath is going to fill with sediment, and that's not good for the hellbenders. What we're looking for when we look for hellbenders are these large flat surfaced or cave surface gray rocks. They're more granite based. And they're going to, because of the way they cave and crack, they create cavities when they're laying flat in the bottom of the stream. The male hellbenders, called den masters, are going to make their dens up underneath these rocks. And so those are the kind of rocks that we're looking for. And we actually have to go around and feel for their cavities, their holes to entrances to their homes. And so if you guys see me walking around the stream with a net on my hand, it's actually because when you reach your hand in there, we can't see them. And we're going to bump into things like other rocks, but if you bump into something that feels like a squishy leg, that's probably a hellbender. And because they're so slimy naturally, we use these bags to help us do two things. Get a grip when we grab a hold of them, and also when you grab a hold of one, we turn this inside out and capture it, and then we've got it sealed up in a baggie so that we can then take the time to study it without it getting away or getting harmed.
And I've heard that these things get a lot bigger than this bag gets.
Yes.
And as we were standing here looking around for these things, I want to talk to the folks at home here in just a second as we keep looking, and we keep looking downstream, about what they can do to look out for these guys and conserve them. So let's go there next. Okay, so back now with Thomas. And Thomas, I want to talk about what's behind me, this eroded bank. Is that a good thing for hellbenders or a not so good thing? What can folks at home do to help the hellbender?
It's a not so good thing. Sedimentation is the enemy of the hellbender. And sedimentation largely comes from bank erosion, which is caused by the lack of vegetation and stream buffers. So folks at home can encourage the planting and maintenance of stream buffers to maintain the banks so they don't erode and produce sediment in streams.
Beautiful. And that might mean watching out for livestock that's going to get in the water as well. That vegetation may keep them back.
Absolutely.
That's good. Now, what about in the stream? Is there something about this stream that we could do to help, and maybe letting coarse woody debris, logs and boulders be in there? What do you think?
Coarse woody debris is good. Of course, that's part of the natural system that supports the food web that ultimately supports hellbenders' food items. But one of the major things you can do when you visit hellbender streams, don't move the rocks.
If you pick them up and look at them, put them back where you found them. Love that. That's great. This is the kind of stuff it's going to take to help that species that's already a species of concern and endangered in some states. Thomas, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I so appreciate it. So appreciate this. I hope y'all enjoyed this one too. And while you're online learning more about the hellbender, check out the Ranger Nick Facebook page, check out the Farm Monitor Facebook page, see what the guys have got going on. And until next time, for the Farm Monitor, I'm Ranger Nick, reminding you, as I always do, that enthusiasm is contagious. So pass it on. Y'all, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you right back here again this time next month. See ya.
Nick, thanks so much. Great job as always. And before we send you on your way, a friendly reminder that for all the latest ag news regarding food, recipes, and what's happening on Georgia farms, be sure you check out all of our social media platforms, including farm-monitor.com.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time right here on the Farm Monitor. Stay safe and have a great week.